Support for Radio Friends comes from OsteoStrong. Improvements in bone density, strength, and power can be achieved by weekly 5-minute no-sweat sessions on their 4-spectrum machines. These isometric robotic machines safely emulate high-impact loading on different parts of the skeletal system, which stimulates activity in bone-building cells. Balance and agility can be improved by 2-minute sessions on vibration plates. Every session is supervised by a trained coach. Learn more on Facebook or call to set up a complimentary wellness assessment and session. Good morning and welcome to Radio Friends on Thursday, June the 16th. We have Gary Wunder with us today, National Federation of the Blind. Good to have you here, Gary.
Great to be here.
And, of course, Gary is blind. He's been on Radio Friends many times now. The last time you were here, we were talking about a blind driver in a race car.
Exactly, right? Exactly. And on the very day that we were doing this interview, he was at the Salt Flats getting ready to try to break a land speed record for blindfolded people. Now, he didn't need a blindfold because he was already blind.
He was blind.
Yeah, but that is the entry in the Guinness Book of World Records. And so he did that despite the fact that there were winds that sort of pushed his car from side to side, and he had to stay within a 10-foot radius in order for the thing to be legit and not shut down.
Did he?
He did. He broke the record twice. The Guinness Book of World Records requires that you make the run 2 times, and they average the speed of the runs, and in both of them he broke the record, which was 200.1 miles an hour, and it's now 211 something.
Okay. Now here's a blind driver breaking the speed record. What was the purpose of this?
The purpose was to show that blind people, like sighted people, engage in challenge activities to try to move back the boundary of what we think a person can do who is blind. This kind of challenge activity isn't for everyone. When we helped Eric Weinmeier climb Mount Everest, I had no interest in being up where it was so far below zero, where the chances of death were so great. But Eric Weinmeier did. And so we helped show that blindness was not the biggest obstacle that he faced. The deal was that he had to face Mount Everest. This guy ended up building his own car or revamping a Chevrolet, creating the cooling system.
He did this all himself.
He did. He had a pit crew, but he was obviously in charge. And I think that's one of the neatest parts of the story. It isn't just that he strapped himself into this car and he was the passenger. He wasn't, you remember when they talked about the astronauts back in the early 60s, yes. They talked about, you're just going to be Spam in a can. You're not going to really control anything. This guy was the pit boss. This guy did the design work on his car. This guy did the sheet metal work. It was great.
When you talk about this, you have to keep telling yourself, the man was blind.
Exactly.
He was blind, but he did all of this. He accomplished more than many of us who have sight have accomplished in our life.
What was cool is he was blind before. He was a race car driver before he went blind, and he thought, does this mean that blindness will have to change my whole life? And it did mean that he had to learn to do things a very different way, but it meant that he could still be a race car driver, and that meant the world to him.
Now, many people in that same situation may have been so overcome with grief about their blindness, and they said, that's it, my career is over. But he goes on to set a world record after being blind.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It goes to show what we have in us if we will tap down deep enough.
Yeah, and I think this is where blind people sometimes need to turn to other blind people, because you don't normally get this kind of inspiration or this kind of knowledge from people who don't know the field, who don't know the possibilities, who don't know how to put the resources together.
And people who've not experienced it.
Exactly.
Who've not experienced it. Now, you can tell me how you do things. I can try to feel how you do things. but I really am not walking in your shoes, so I don't know.
That's right. And if you are newly blind and a sighted person tries to tell you all of the things that a blind person can do, it's easy to say, you're not in my shoes. You don't know what it's like. You're going to leave this room with sight. I'm going to leave it as a blind person. It's different when a blind person says to you, not only can you do this, but we'll show you and we'll help you and we'll put you around other like-minded people. You know, they say that if you want to be positive, you get around positive people.
Right.
And I think that's at least part of it.
Gary, what do you say to somebody, because you don't know who is listening, whose life you may touch, how this interview may be shared on the internet somewhere. What if somebody is listening or watching who has just become blind and they're in a terribly depressed state? What do you say to them?
Well, you say, first of all, there is life after blindness. There is quality life after blindness. And it's normal to go through some sadness and depression, and you may always have some regret for the things that you cannot do, but don't waste the rest of your life growling about what was. Try to embrace what now is and find yourself some people who are willing to help you. If I die today, I will have lived one of the most satisfying lives that I'm sure anyone on earth has ever lived. And I want you to be able to say that same kind of thing too. And you can. So get in touch with blind people and figure out how things work. Because there are lots of ways to do things in the world.
And that goes for anybody, not just a blind person, but anyone who is going through some adverse situation in their life. We are almost out of time, but you wanted to promote a concert for blind people in Ukraine, right?
Yeah, we decided we wanted to do something for the blind people of Ukraine, and it so often feels like we're neutralized, like we want to do good, but we can't figure out what to do. And we got a proposal that we worked with the World Blind Union, and we decided to raise money for blind people of Ukraine who have been displaced by the war there. And we are getting them blindness technology so that whether they are still in Ukraine or whether they are refugees, we're getting them technology that will help them figure out, where do I go for food? Where do I go for a place to stay? And it's been a really good thing. We were able to raise $85,000 on the day of the concert, and by people phoning in donations, we're now over $100,000.
Okay.
And the National Federation of the Blind gave this to the World Blind Union to help blind people of Ukraine.
Okay, real quick, is there a number people can call if they do want to make a donation to this?
Yes, if they want, they can call 573-874-1774, and we will take your donation and get it to the blind people of Ukraine.
Okay. Gary Wunder, thank you so much for coming by. It's always a pleasure talking to you and an inspiration. I say that sincerely. Please come back again.
Thank you.
Okay. Appreciate it. If there's something you'd like to hear or see, let me know. Drop me an email, pepperp@missouri.edu. Bye-bye.